I used to really appreciate Kung Fu. Like most people, I watched Hong Kong cinema and even saw some of their best leave the industry. Do you remember when Jet Li was in movies with DMX? Oh boy, that's right. Rest in peace, DMX. Unfortunately, years of learning have come to let me understand that Kung Fu is best left within the realm of movies, shows, and video games. To make a long story short, to have an efficient style, you need to have sparring, competition, and military application. Sparring is preparation for competition. You try out the moves that you use in the actual fight. If you can't do it in sparring, don't even bother. It also teaches you how to deal with stress, learn the feel of being grappled and hit, to not blink or turn away. That doesn't mean that you go for the KO, however things can escalate, but it prepares you for the real thing. Thinking under pressure, but not so much pressure that you break, and being able to think while under stress. The human body has multiple reflexes that were built over time, and while they may seem useful at first, they're absolutely terrible in an actual confrontation. The point of training is to single those reflexes out and to get rid of them, or at least make sure that they're not too preeminent. While real fighting can seem messy and underwhelming, the educated eye will see the beauty in it. Which brings me to a scene of Barry Season 2. Not my problem if you're spoiled. Watch the show. Dumb spoiler culture. At the beginning of Season 2, Detective What's-His-Face discovers that Barry is the one to blame for the death of his partner. He tracks down him and his handler, and finally manages to get a confession. In a shocking revelation, he's not here to avenge his partner, but he's here to ask Barry to kill his wife's new flame.
I'm sorry about Janice.
That loss? That's Ronnie Broxton. He's fucking my wife. You get rid of him, all of this goes away. What?
It works because it was set up early in Season 1, and that doesn't sound out of character for him. Barry, who wants out of the hired gun scene, warns Ronnie, his target, that he was sent here by the agent to kill him, and that he should pack his things and leave for here. He becomes too relaxed, and Ronnie gets the drop on him, leading to the confrontation. To start with, let's talk about Taekwondo. It's a fighting form primarily focused on using one's legs. There's two forms best known to most people, WTF and ITF. WTF allows kicks to the head and the chest, and punches to the chest. ITF allows kicks and punches on both levels. The main problem with Taekwondo is that it focuses on high-risk, high-reward kicks that are hard to land and set up, unless you're Edson Barboza. TKD fighters do well at range, but rely too much on movement for defense. They also don't react well to punches to the head, and the clinch game is unrealistic at best. It's a fun art, you feel cool doing it, but it's best if complementary. Look at Nieky Holzken for reference. He throws lead hooks to hide the spinning back kick. Knowing this, you can see why the fight played out the way it did. Ronnie had the upper end with the side kick and at range. However, he only kicked the upper body, creating the chance for Barry to catch a kick. He showed some semblance of knowledge of other arts, like kickboxing by kneeing, but the lack of use of such technique, despite having the perfect scenario to use it, showcases a lack of experience. Probably less than 3 months. He might have just thrown that out of instinct and not knowledge. Because he didn't use punches and knees, and because he did not free his leg, Barry had the opportunity to land a throat strike. They grapple again and Ronnie attempts a guillotine, even tries to secure it. Using the legs are essential if you don't want someone to slip out, but he only manages to get around one. The fight keeps going, it's pretty messy but quite technical. Ronnie finishes the first part by using headbutts, and believe me, it's not because you follow rules in a setting that you can cheat, even in said setting. Remember, Tyson eating Holyfields here. Also remember that a lot of practitioners have a rough past and were delinquents, or are just straight up weird. I also want to touch upon the nunchucks. They're actually an impractical weapon. They can easily blow back towards you. I like that the show doesn't have the user just easily catching it. They just land crudely. The flail has the same issue, with the exception that it's normally used with an armor, so it counteracts the fact that it can come back towards you. The second part of the fight is memorable, but more so for the drama. Both combatants are tired and recovering from heavy injury. However, there's one important detail. Ronnie lands a spinning hook kick. The detective barely has time to see it, and we learn that he dies. It's actually pretty common for people in street fights to get punched, hit their head on the way down, and die. The resulting head trauma is the culprit. So an Olympic level athlete catching unaware fat slug with such an heavy attack is probably lethal. The grocery floor is hard. If you like Kung Fu, don't feel insulted. I appreciate the art too, it's just that it's been harder to enjoy knowing that China has been using it as a propaganda tool even to this day. I hate the fact that people think that they're safe learning this when they're not. Don't believe me? Go spar. See how you do. I wouldn't mind more action like this along with the Hong Kong style, while making the clear distinction that certain things are better reserved for cinema. At this point sparring is better. You actually get touched. There is some contact. However, if you truly want to be safe, well, avoid talking shit to people and searching for trouble, but you also have to accept that you need to suffer and be uncomfortable and face the humility of losing. Most people just want to hurt others and feel like a badass, but they do not want to put the time that it actually takes to become something. There's a reason why there's not more world champions.